Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We are very excited for our first educational webinar, Financial Literacy with Didier Occident and Secure the Bag. Today we're going to be learning about how to budget properly. What does that look like? Common mistakes, real basic things that we need foundationally. And then the second half, we're going to open up to question and answer. So feel free to send in questions through the comments. Everything is live, and we will answer them in the second half of the webinar. I'm going to go ahead and give a brief introduction and then let Didier kick it off. Didier Occident is the founder of Occident Wealth Management, a financial advising firm with Northwestern Mutual. Didier has been an advisor for over 11 years, based out of Richmond, Virginia, and he has won numerous industry awards. He was the top under 5-year advisor in the southern region of the United States during his first 5 years in the business and was ranked 4th nationally. He was the first African American at Northwestern Mutual to achieve this honor. Didier has been $1 million roundtable member during every year of his career, which is less than 2% of financial advisors that qualify for this. Didier is an avid sports fan. He founded Secure the Bag Financial Literacy Program in 2018 at Florida State. Didier has been married to his wife, Sarah, for 12 years. They have 2 children, his daughter, Lucy, who is 7.5 years old, and son, Lonnie, who is 4.5. Didier is passionate about empowering athletes and coaches to reach their financial potential. Didier, I'll let you take over from here.
All right. Thanks, Casey. I appreciate it. Hope everyone's doing well wherever they are. I'm going to try to share my screen. This is a new platform, so hopefully this works well. And Casey, if you can let me know if that's good for everybody.
Yeah, that should be perfect on their screen, Didier.
All right, perfect. So we're here to talk about financial literacy, and I'm grateful to partner with Casey and NOCAP Sports with our financial literacy program and get to talk to you guys today. I really want to keep this loose, informative. I know there's a lot of different people from different sports and different backgrounds who are going to be getting this information. So we kind of want it to be general. And when I was thinking about how do we make this general, right? How do we make this important and relevant to all you guys? I really think it starts with foundation, right? There's so many things that are talked about right now with collegiate athletes and money, with what you get from the NCAA, your stipends and stuff like that if you're on scholarship. And now to this platform and this opportunity, this massive opportunity, right? For the first time to be able to capitalize on your image and your likeness, right? And make money off that. But a lot of what all of that's going to require, all those things are good, but what that's going to require is financial literacy. And financial literacy, when I think about it, it starts with the ability to budget and understanding what's going in and what's coming out. So that's what we're going to talk about for a few minutes today, and I'll open it up for questions. And we'll kind of go through and talk a little bit about how you can make that money work for you. So one of the first things I always like to do is help you guys understand where you are, right? So the first question that I would pose to you guys is, how much does the average college grad make? So once you leave the doors of the institution that you've been at, right, for 4 years, what does the average nationwide, the average college graduate make in income? So first, 33,000, 49,000, 55,000, or 62,000. So if you guys are able to comment, drop some comments in, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. So is it 33,000, 49,000, 55, or 62? And I'll wait for a couple seconds, but how much does the average college grad make? 33, 49, 55, or 62? So the answer is $49,000. So think about that. The average person who's leaving college, earning an income, they're going to be earning on average about $49,000 a year, right? So you're going to make 49 grand a year in salary. But what does that really look like, right? Because with the NIL coming, one of the things that we're really going to have to be understanding of are taxes and how they impact it. So this is a good way to impact. When someone says they make 49 grand, what does that look like at the end of the day? So understanding your worth. So we said 49 grand is our salary, right? We know that's not what we take home, right? So the first thing to understand is there's our salary and then there's what we're actually taking home and living off of. So the first thing we want to do is break it down, right? So 49,000, and I used Virginia because that's where I am. So we use that tax bracket and those taxes to walk you through this. So we say, all right, 49,000, you're in a 16% federal tax bracket. You're going to pay a 4.6% Virginia state tax. That takes you down to 39 grand. You're also going to pay 6.2% in Social Security tax. So, right, all of these are coming out. These are the taxes that people talk about coming out of their paychecks. That takes you down to 36,700. Then you're going to pay Medicare tax on top of that. That brings that 40. You can see that 49,000 dwindles quickly, right? It's down to 36,000. Then we got to pay health and dental insurance. Right? We got 34,000. We divide that by 12 months. We're getting about 1430 each paycheck or 2860 a month. Right? So we're taking home about $2,860 per month, give or take, given on our bracket. Now, some of it's going to depend on if you're married, if you're single, but understand there's always what you make, and then that's a difference between what you take home, and your tax bracket's going to be different. So one of the things that you guys are going to have to learn as the NIL comes around is, if you're having a deal, if there's an opportunity, what are they paying you, but what are you actually going to net, or what's going to be put aside for taxes? And that's going to be something I'm sure we'll talk about here as we go. But that's really, really important to understand. So if you have $2,860 per month to work off of, the first thing and the most important thing with money, the thing that I try to tell people to live by is the concept of paying yourself first, right? And what do we mean by paying ourselves first? Money either gets saved or it gets spent. Right? You want to treat your savings like a bill. So what I mean by that is no matter what happens, there's certain things in life that to meet your basic needs that you have to pay for, right? You've got to pay for your mortgage, your rent, your car payment, right? There's certain things, your electricity, those are things that are non-negotiable, right? So you can't spend that money, right? No matter what happens, those things have to get paid every month. You want to put your savings in that category, right? Too often we look at money, we financially look at things and say, we're going to treat our savings as an afterthought, right? We're going to save after we've spent, but you want to treat your savings like a bill because you can't pay your rent or your mortgage after you've spent. That has to be paid up front. So what we want to do is learn to be a disciplined saver so we can be a guilt-free spender, right? You want to put that money aside as soon as you get paid, decide, hey, just like I'm paying my rent or I'm paying my mortgage, I'm putting money right to the side, and I'm paying myself, and that's for my financial plan. That's for my future, right? So that's one of the key things to think about. You guys are probably too young to know who this is, but this is Scrooge McDuck. He counted every penny constantly, and he had a lot of money for it, right? He was a master of paying himself first. So the first thing you want to do is treat your savings like a bill. So one of the things that we look at is how many Americans have less than 1 month of income saved, right? So we always you hear stories about athletes making mistakes with money or athletes who aren't financially literate, which is unfair because athletes just make the same mistakes with money that everyone else makes. Right? They just make it with larger sums of money. But there's a reason 70% of lottery winners go broke, right? People by and large aren't good with money. So to illustrate that, one question I have for you guys is how many Americans have less than 1 month of income saved? 1 out of 8, 3 out of 4, 1 out of 4, or a half, right? So how many Americans have less than a 1 month of income saved up? Don't have an emergency fund. It's a half. So think about that. 50% of people in this country don't have just 1 month of income saved, right? I think 30% of people can't cover an emergency expense of $400, of over $400, right? There's a lot of reasons for that. There's income inequality. There's stagnation with wages for some people, but there's a lot of people who just don't set their environment up to be successful financially. So if you can build these habits today, you're going to have a bright future tomorrow, right? If you can't manage $1,000, you can't manage $1 million, right? This is relatable. right? This is stuff is relatable across all lines. And there's nothing wrong with wanting nice things or having good, having nice things. You just want to fit it within the confines of a budget. So one of the things we want to do is ask you a few questions to think about. What percentage of your monthly income should you save every month? So when we're talking about what do we pay ourselves, how do we pay ourselves first? What percentage of your monthly income should you save every month? 5%, 10%, 20, or 50%? Right? So 5, 10, 20, or 50. What percentage of income do you think you should save per month? The answer is at least 20%. So ideally, if you can save at least 20% of your income towards your financial goals, you're going to be in great shape. Right? It would be nice to save 50, but we want to say at least 20%. So it doesn't mean you can always do it, right? If you have the income, it's great to do, but you want to use it as a guideline, as a marker. So we got the 60-20-20 budgeting rule, right? We got 60% of your money should go to your living expenses, 20% towards savings and investing, and then 20% towards discretionary income, right? So 60-20-20, that's a rule of thumb. So next, what percentage of your budget should you put towards housing? 5, 10, 20, or 30%? Right? So you want to put 5%, 10%, 20, or 30. And this is the maximum. So this isn't ideal. This is the max, meaning you don't want to go over this number. Answer is 30%. Right? So you don't want to go, you ideally want to be under that number, but you for sure do not want to go over 30% of your income in terms of housing. If you've heard the term house poor, you understand it. Buying a house is great. It's valuable. You build a lot of equity. It's a great asset to have. But the thing you don't want to do is be putting too much of your money just to pay a mortgage, because there's a lot of things that go into buying a house. So 30%. What's the maximum percentage of your budget you put towards your car? So again, remember I said maximum. This isn't ideal, but you do not want to go over this number. 5%, 10%, 12%, or 15%. Right? 5%, 10, 12, or 15 for your car. 10% is the max. Again, ideally, you want to be under that number. You want to be under that number, especially with a car, because a car is a depreciating asset, right? It loses value over time. So 60-20-20. So we say 60% goes to your living expenses, 20% towards savings and investing, and 20% discretionary, right? So you've got a playbook for any sport that you play. That's you have a playbook that you execute and go out and try to be successful, right? And your success is predicated on your ability to memorize that playbook and go out and execute. Just as you have a playbook for your individual sport, you need one financially. And your playbook financially is going to be your budget, right? And we're going to make these available to anybody who wants them. But this is it, guys, right here. This is your playbook for success. Just as crazy as it would be to find yourself in a situation or in a game where you have no playbook and you think you're going to be successful and expect success, it's just as crazy to think you can be successful financially if you don't have a playbook or a budget. You're not going to be able to money alone is not going to do it, right? Just like talent alone isn't going to do it. You have to harness that talent, just like you have to harness your money. So it doesn't matter if you have $1,000 or $1 million, right? If you can't manage 1,000, you can't manage 1 million. This isn't about the money you get, right? It's about what you do with the money when you get it. And that's something that, again, like I said, 70% of lottery winners go broke, right? That they solved the money problem, but they didn't solve their behavior problem. They didn't solve their environment problem. And that's what's ultimately going to lead to your success. So let's break down that 60%. We've got housing is included in that, your car, food, and just miscellaneous bills. So 60% is your living expenses, right? So you want to keep it under 60% of your income just for life. Then we've got we did 20% for budgeting, and our last 20%, right? Is spending money. That's just fun money. We want to learn, like I said, we want to learn to be disciplined savers so we can be guilt-free spenders. This money is money you can spend on whatever you want, right? So once you've taken care of the saving, you can do whatever you want with the rest of the money. That's the beauty of it. But we live life in reverse, right? We tend to live life, we spend, and then we try to save. You need to flip that thinking. And once you flip that thinking, you're always going to be in position to maximize what you have. So this all sounds simple, but right, why can't we execute it? Why can't we execute it, right? The problem is never knowing how to live our best life, it's executing it, right? So you know what it takes to be the best football player or basketball player or tennis player or field hockey player. You know what it takes to do all those things correctly. But sometimes you just don't want to do it, right? Some days you're not feeling it, right? It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about, all right, if I have a plan, I might not be perfect in executing the plan. And some days, I just wasn't very good. But a plan always gives you a starting point, a point to come back to, a point that you can come back and say, you know what, this is where I went off track. And now I have a plan to get back on track. Right? That's what we're not expecting perfection financially, but if you have a plan, you can always get back on track. Adversity is not a final act. Right? We're all going to face adversity. You're all going to have times where we overspend or get ourselves in situations. But if you have the parameters, if you have a framework in place, you're going to be successful because you're going to have the ability to get back on track. So how do we build our playbook? What does that look like? So the first thing we want to do is identify what our goals are, right? So as the NIL starts and you start thinking about the money that you can create different ways, what are your goals with that money, right? Is it just money to make money, right? What do we want to do with our money? So be clear with our goals. Just like you have goals for your individual, money's no different than being an athlete, right? A lot of the same principles apply. Just as you have goals for every season, you're going to have goals for what you want to do with your money, right? So identify your goals. And once you have goals, it's a lot easier to attain. Then it's about creating the systems to go out and achieve those goals. Keep a record of your income, right? Understand what's coming in and what's going out. Know exactly what you're going to get paid. Collect and calculate all your expenses. Know exactly what are things that are non-negotiable, that are fixed, that you have to pay every single month. Determine needs and wants. This is a big one. But I'm telling you, the sooner you can start doing these, do I need this and do I want it? And what function does that serve? And understanding how to budget for needs versus wants. We all want things. It's about putting it in that discretionary category though, budgeting for it. And then developing a savings plan. How much do I want to save on my income and taking it off the top? To me, this is the most important. Is you can make this a lot easier on yourself by just declaring a number that you want to save based on your income and forcing you to figure out the rest and live off the rest. And then implementation and maintain, right? Implementing a plan doesn't work unless you implement it, unless you're willing to not only create it, but then live it. So what that looks like, let's say we've got $2,860 of income. So a budget might look like this, right? You might have rent for your housing, rent, utilities, car payment, car insurance, gas, maintenance, parking tolls. Then you might have groceries, personal care, cell phone, cable, internet. And then you're saving $300, $350 to your emergency fund. And then potentially saving out for shorter midterm needs. Beyond that, you're saving $572. This is it, right? Just getting clear on these numbers and what categories they go in is going to make a world of difference. This is your playbook for success financially. And now we know where every penny went, right? And it's out to zero. So financial planning is telling your money where to go and directing it where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's what budgeting is. It is controlling your money and knowing exactly where it goes rather than constantly wondering where did it go. So here are some quick tips. As we wrap up, here are some quick tips to help you save, right? So we want to track our fixed and limited expenses, right? You know exactly what you want to save each month. That is the best feeling in the world. One of the best feelings. Treat your savings like a bill, like I said. We all know Warren Buffett, right? Great investor. This is one of my favorite quotes. Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving. Think about that. Flip the priority. Decide what to save, and then decide and live off the rest. Makes it a lot easier. Pay your bills and credit cards on time. This is a big one. This is a big one, especially when you're in college, right? We've all can relate to this, right? You buy something for $20, credit card interest, you don't pay it, you get charged interest. That meal just turned into $100. Parking tickets, all those types of things in school. Bite the bullet and pay them on the front end before the interest accrues, right? Because those things not only mess up your budget, they mess up your credit. Cook at home, right? So we talk about this as athletes. Not only is McDonald's not great fuel for your body, it's expensive. Pick a couple days where you're going to cook at home, right? Meal plans, little things like this. They seem small, but these things make the biggest difference long term, right? We don't do them because we think, oh, it's just this one time, or I can get on track next month. But when we add it up, when we look at it over a long period of time, there's a lot of money that gets lost through what seem at the time as small decisions. Big one, stop paying money for your own money. Avoid ATM fees and parking tickets, right? We all, you know, in whatever college town you are, what bar you go to every single weekend. And you know every single weekend, they're going to charge you an ATM fee, or it's a cover charge. And then you get there, you don't have cash. So you go to the conveniently placed ATM, right? And you pay $3 or $4 to get your own money. And you think about it in the moment, you say, oh, you justify it and say, oh, it's just this one time. But think about how many times that happens over the course of your time in school. You add that up, that's probably a couple $100 that you've spent between going to different events, concerts, things like that. What if we could take the extra step and say, you know what? I'm going to put this money to the side. I'm going to go to the ATM, set myself a reminder, and take out what I need for the weekend on Thursday afternoon or Friday afternoon, right? It's about setting up your environment for success, building in the principles in your environment to go execute them. And these are small things, but they add up to big things over time. What's small adds up to big over time. Check for student discounts and good grade discounts. All right, I was telling Casey yesterday, I have two people on my staff who are about 30 years old that still use their college ID to go to the movies, right? So think about how much money that has saved them over the course of time, right? So chances are there's a lot of good grade discounts or student discounts. Take advantage of those things. Take the time, do your research, take advantage. Again, we're talking about small things that over time add up to something big. Right, and now we're talking about, just to recap, track your fixed expenses, pay yourself first, pay your bills and credit cards on time, cook at home, stop paying money for your own money, avoid ATM fees and parking tickets, check for student discounts and good grade discounts. We want to secure the bag at all costs, right? We always talk about what securing the bag. What does that really mean? We tend to think of it in terms of it's what I bring in. But really, it's not what you bring in, it's what you keep, right? It's what we keep day to day. It's our habits. What happens to the money after we get it? That's what's going to determine your success. So these are just a few tips, guys, that are going to help you guys. My last question is, how many young Americans think that getting followers on Instagram is more important than worrying about their finances? The answer is 87%. So I understand the world and what you guys are up against. Everybody online is in a rush to look like somebody important, look like they're doing something important. Right? I read an article the other day that talked about a company in Russia that'll let people Though you can pay $200, $300 for 15 minutes on a private jet just to take pictures. Not fly anywhere, just to take pictures to look like you're doing something. This is the world we're living in. Don't be in a rush to be somebody before you are somebody, right? Keep your mind on what matters, because most folks are living a lie, and we need to start having these conversations, right? All of those good things will come if you set yourself up with those habits. Like I said, it's about what happens once you get the money, right? It's not just about getting the money. It's about your success is determined by what happens once you get the money, right? Just like if you have a scholarship, that's part of it, right? But the success happens with what you decide to do with the scholarship, how hard you decide to work, how you choose to maximize it. That's going to determine your success. Now, if you can keep that in mind, you're off to a good start, and you're going to be successful not only for your short time in college, but for the rest of your life. And I'm definitely excited to help. This is all my information. We will answer any emails, any messages. If anyone has any questions or wants to talk more, I'm excited to be on this journey with you guys in NOCAP. Yeah, and let's build habits for a better future.
Absolutely. Didier, that was a fantastic presentation. I took notes myself. We did have a few questions come in, not right now through the YouTube, but feel free to send them, anyone viewing. But we did have some from a few schools from yesterday. The first one was, how much should we have for an emergency fund? How does someone actually determine how big or how much? Or
so it's going to depend on everyone's situation. I think a rule of thumb that we use, that we talk about financially, is 6 months of expenses, right? 3 to 6 months. It depends on what your expenses are. Some people can get by with 2 or 3 months. I'd say 3 months at a minimum. This is important because emergencies happen. So, one of the things that a lot of young people tend to think in extremes, right? I think a lot of people tend to either hoard cash, right? As I see as adults hoard cash and are scared to invest. They're scared to make it grow, which can be problematic in its own right. And then there are people who don't save at all. But then there's also the trend, and I think a lot of young people are in this, where they just want to skip and just start investing, right? And there's a lot of crypto and a lot of cool, fun stuff that people are trying to get into. And I think one of the things that I've seen is some young people who skip right into that without building an emergency fund. And it's important to do those things, but you have to have something to fall back on in an emergency, because what enables you to be successful investing and doing some other things is the fact that you have a cushion where you don't have to panic when things go wrong with the investment, right? And you have money that you can fall back on if your car breaks down, right? If you have money elsewhere that's not accessible, then you're going to put yourself in you're going to do the opposite of what your intention was by putting yourself in a bad position, by not having savings. But 3 to 6 months, it depends on everyone. If you're young, single, expenses are low, you'd aim for like a 3-month cushion of income.
Great. Another question was, how often should you adjust your budget? Is it only after like a new job, or is it every, so often periodically, or what would you recommend?
I mean, so it's going to depend. I think, one, you want to do it with any big life change, right? You have a new apartment or new home, new bills, you want to do it. New job for sure. It's something that if you're diligent about it, you want to review it monthly, you can. I think if your life is kind of on autopilot, I'd say at least once or twice a year, if you've set it up really well. But I think the big thing is that you're revisiting with something changes. If you get a raise, and I think those are the things, if you can constantly have it on your radar, because we're constantly changing, we're constantly evolving as people, right? If you think even, who were you a year ago, especially if you're young, you're changing constantly and your goals are changing constantly. And I think sometimes people fall into the trap of, they thought one way, right? And then they didn't change their finance, and they've changed, their goals have changed, but they haven't changed their spending habits or their savings habits. So you always want to make sure your money is matching where your mind is, where your mindset is.
Mm-hmm. Are there any budgeting or tracking apps that you would suggest, or is an Excel sheet the most typical way?
An Excel sheet is good. There's some apps. There's Mint. A lot of people I know use mint.com. There's a couple that recently we sent to a couple clients. I can send you, but I know Mint is a great app that people use, and they're new ones all the time. I think it's about, I'm a pen and paper guy, and I'm old school like that. But I think there's always these new cutting edge apps, and I think it's about there. I mean, I think for different brain types and what at this point there's something for everybody that you can utilize to track what you're spending. And I think, again, the simplest thing is really, I think we tend to overcomplicate it, is saying, hey, I'm saving, this is my income, these are my exact bills, and then lumping a savings amount into the bills, and then you've taken all the guesswork out of it. Mm-hmm. Right? Because your car payment is what your car payment is. Your rent is what your rent is. And if you can say, all right, I'm going to treat my savings like that, then it's simpler to just live off whatever's left over.
Mm-hmm. And then the last question we had came from an administrator at a school. With a lot of athletes probably being 1099 independent contractors, I know at the beginning you went through the exact percentages of taxes to take out, but what would be just like a ballpark, if you're going to work as an independent contractor, you should set aside this amount of each?
This is tough. I'd say, at least 15%. The more you're going to make, the higher that number is, right? You see as high as 30% to be on the safe side, right? You with something like that, that's where a lot of people can get in trouble. It's where a lot of athletes, historically, entertainers, because they're not true employees, W-2 of these entities. And that's one of the things that is the most on top of my mind with the NIL, is how that's going to be handled, because now you're talking about young people really having to navigate, if they have taxable income, being disciplined enough or setting up their environment where they have to move those taxes. But I'd say at least 15%, as high as 30%, if you want to be, being on the safe side. Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Didier, and Secure the Bag. This has been a fantastic presentation, and really excited to kick off our education webinars with you here. For everyone watching, next week, Wednesday, May 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll have Darren Heitner and Mitt Winter here to talk about LLCs and trademarks. Didier, anything that you would like to say to kick off?
No, I mean, I think the biggest thing is, I think what you guys are doing is great, providing the platform for this education, and even something in terms of LLCs, and the more that the student athletes can learn these things now. It's one of those things where, as older people, we talk about, oh, if I'd only known now what I know. I see people who are in their 30s and 40s struggling with LLC stuff and struggling with budgeting. These things don't go away; they just become bigger problems. So if you guys, girls, can get ahead of this stuff and listen to the information that I present, listen to the information Darren presents, right, and take one or two things from it, right, and implement it into your life now, you're setting yourself up for a lifetime of joy instead of stress.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Didier. I know this content is fantastic. I know I took some away. Just to recap a couple I noted: pay yourself first, treat your savings like a bill, learn to be a disciplined saver so you can be a guilt-free spender. I actually really love that one. I'm going to talk to my fiance about it. So that is it. I'll go ahead and close it off there. Thank you so much. Again, Secure the Bag. All the information is right there. And nocapsports.io for any athletes that want to sign up. You can already start preparing for July 1st. Thank you.